All right. Sorry, I just had an alert go off.
Three side.
Hold on. Let me see. They're talking a lot on the scanner, which is rare. Hi, everybody. Pugs Moran. Welcome to the High Noon Rant. We'll get started in a second. I'm trying to figure out what's going on in Spalding County, Georgia. There's a whole bunch of us. Okay, this is going to be difficult because it's Georgia and it's rural Georgia. This isn't like the fancy, sophisticated man from Savannah. This is like some dude lives out there in Warner Robins. Come on. What it says is active event, officer involved shooting, massive response, Spalding County. Anyway, I don't mean to distract you, and I don't mean to suggest that that's anything worthy of our time. It very well may be, but it just so happens that as we were signing on here, I got the alert and they started chattering, so I thought we'd check it out. Because I can't understand these people. I'll tell you, who else I can't understand? I'm a big scanner nerd. Let's keep listening here. Hold on. We'll get to the show in a minute. Don't you worry.
25 was in Kelvin Allen at the Chevron Food Mart, 1669 West McIntosh Road, crossing North Trust Lane, Hallmark Drive. Vehicle was stolen from 1635 Hallgirls Drive in the city. It's going to be a 2021 black Dodge Durango. Planet 76 and a black Dodge Charger with a 77 and 15.
All right, I have no idea what is going on here. What I do know is that I need to get out of this. We don't need to be listening to that. Okay, hold on. Apologize. A little bit of a bumpy start to today's Friday show. Welcome in. I am Pugs Moran. This is the High Noon Stream. Hi, everybody. There's Taronda. You were missed the other day. Just so you know, Taronda was not the first in the other day, and Taronda, we took notice. I want to say hi to Jeff, who's in the chat room. Rainy Days, yo ho ho, welcome Rainy Days. We've also got Byron. We got Peter. Oh, we've got our executive producer of this here show, Mr. Peter L. I gotta fix that. Today's show is executive produced by it's a two-person job. It's there's a tie. What I do is if you tip the show, which is how this show stays afloat. If you tip this show using either the Venmo or the Cash App, big tipper of the previous day's show gets to be the executive producer. Well, in this case, we got a tie. And this tie is between who? There we go. Peter L. and Frankie. My boy Frankie. Thank you, folks. I do appreciate that. They're responsible for today's program. So any complaints, requests for refund should go straight through Peter and Frank. I have nothing to do with it. They are the executive producers of the show. Hi, Adam. Adam's here. Adam, there's a subject coming up on today's show that I'm going to try and talk about, but I'm going to try and be as vulnerable and sincere and genuine, ask questions, looking for a real conversation about it. Not so much, you can't say that, racist, or whatever. Yeah, that's not even apropos of what I'm going to talk about, but you know what I mean? So, although I enjoy being triggered by my old friend of 20 plus years, Adam Reyna, that's not what I'm looking to do here. It's a sensitive subject, and I think that on both sides of it, people are affected. So please, just a word. I'm signaling to my boy, Adam. Appreciate you being here as always. Leslie's here. Don't you go causing problems, Byron. All right. Byron's walking. Byron, there's no problem. It's not a problem. No, I'm just saying that, man, there are so many complicated things that we have to sort of figure out what the correct response is. Not what the programmed response is, not what we think we should say, but really what is the correct thing? And I want to maybe get into a subject like that later in today's show. So what is this show? Well, it's been going on now for about 2.5 years. It is a stream of consciousness. It's just me talking, blah, blah, blah. No breaks, no nothing. But what am I talking about? Well, I am kind of hemmed in. I'm not just chasing rabbits all over. We are talking about the most significant events making news, headlines, buzz, whatever it is today. So I'm going to give you all the things people are talking about. I'm going to give you my hot take on it, and then we're going to move on. We're not going to spend too much time on any one subject. We're not going to delve into any sort of divisive BS. We're not going to do politics. That's not what we do here, because I don't think that's what most of us, when we hang out like normal people, get into. That seems to simply be the domain of talk radio in America and the internet. And I'm done with it. So that's what this is. The show's an experiment. Been going on for 2.5 years at this point, and that's all due to you. Thank you, folks. There is the reminder. You can tip the show at any point. We got crushed this month. We're not going to make it again for the second month, but that's okay, man. I can't believe that we made it for 2.5 years. Unbelievable. So proud of this. We accomplished something here. This, doing this show. So thank you. Let's see here. Let me get sure. Man, I'm done doing the fill-ins on. I'm done with the freak fill-ins for now. That was what I was doing mornings. I was blessed. I was blessed to do mornings. Filling in. You guys, I haven't talked about this. 97.1 The Freak in Dallas. I've been friends with all those people over there since they started. They're all great people. They're all like the best of the Dallas radio community. And by best, I don't mean because, whether or not they're the most talented, that's all subjective. But what I mean is they're the best people. They're the best people. Man, there's a lot of assholes in radio. All the people that you admire, that you love, that you show up to their things, I'm telling you, most of them in real life, they're jerks. They're arrogant. They're big fish in small ponds. They're mean. They're cruel. They're insecure. All of these things. That's everybody in radio. Most people in radio. You're lucky if you get to a station and maybe there's 10 people who are talent. You're lucky if maybe 2 of them are tolerable. And, without... obviously I'm biased, but I always kind of thought that within the confines of the radio station that we worked at, me and Kelly, during the Pugs and Kelly show, I think we were kind of like the most liked. Like, I think if you went to the sales department, maybe, I think they'd be like, no, they're really easy to work with and they're really nice. We know who the least liked was. And by the way, when I say most liked, that's not to say, what do you mean they liked you better than Jagger? No, not really. No, that's not what I mean to say. But what I mean to say is for a big period of time, I know that people didn't hate me, right? I know that, by the way, I had a conversation with Skin the other day. We were talking on the phone. We had a really good conversation about this. And I had said something to him and he took it the wrong way. And I go, oh man, I hope you didn't take it that way. I mean, you is that what you think of me? You think I would say that? And he was like, no, man, I'm sorry. Absolutely not. He's like, you got a great reputation. And he said it like that. And I went, because that means a lot. Because I know that there are a lot of people who are mean and jerky. But the Freak seems to have cherry-picked from this market all the dudes who are really nice and really cool and really chill. I've told stories about Reiner. The guy's a lion in radio. He is a lion. And people are afraid of him because he's gruff. He's the old gray wolf. But in real life, he's such a gentleman. He's such a kind, encouraging, hopeful, decent dude. Danny Bayless. Ben and Skin, so nice, such wonderful people. Mike Soroy. Anyway, my point is this: I've really taken to that station as a fan, and because of those people, we've been friendly, and so it was just such a great honor that they allowed me to do that. That was fun. We're done now, so I get to go back to having a normal sleep schedule, which I will appreciate. But I gotta say, I'm gonna miss it. There was something about for the past 7 to 8 days that we've been doing, that I've been living in this. I was in a different mindset. I felt driven, and I felt like, there was, a lot of times I do this show. When I finish this show at 2:00, oftentimes I'm like, well, now what do I do? And that is, truth be told, why we were doing 2 shows a day. I've talked about my mental state and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not a crazy person or anything, but I do internalize stuff, and I cause a lot of internal damages with the way that I think about myself. So that's why we were doing so many streams, the nighttime stream. And then this one, I needed to have something when we were done with this. I needed to go, okay, so what's next? Otherwise, people who have depression, they understand idle minds, man. Idle minds just make you think about, mistakes and all of that. Anyway, so it was a wonderful change of pace, and I can't tell you how happy I am. Everybody was so nice. The listeners themselves were so nice. That's the other thing. I think that's what this is about that station. It attracts decent people. It attracts, not the people who are, calling in going, you suck, Baba Boy. You know, so that was really nice. And I thank everybody involved, and I hope you enjoyed it. And now we will go back to regularly streamed programming. What else do I need to say? How the show is done. We do the show in 4 quarters. The 4 quarters, they interlock, they create the one show. First quarter is a segment we do. We call it Erstwhile on This Day. All the things that have helped define what this day is to us. What, big events that occurred, things that we'll never forget. That's what we do. This day in history. We call it Erstwhile on This Day. Second thing is we do birthdays. These are all old radio hack bits. But I'm trying to breathe new life into them with a different way. So we're going to do birthdays, right? We're going to talk about people who were born on this day. The interesting ones, the ones that I got a little bit, 10 to 15 seconds of rant in me over. We're going to do that. Then the third quarter, we call that the deads. These are dead people who died on this day. We decide if they went to heaven or hell based on what we understand of their lives. That's 1, 2, and 3 quarters. Fourth quarter, we all know this. This is the meat and potatoes. This is where we talk about everything that's happening in the world, everything that's shaping our world today. Headlines, hot topics, trends, buzz, whatever you want to call it. Should we get started? Hi, Chuck. Chuck Nelson checking in. All right, let's get started. It's the High Noon Rant with me, Pugs Moran. It is today, the night. Oh boy, why did I put 19? Oh my God, I just got so scared. I put together the first segment, Erstwhile on This Day. I put that together like within the last half hour. So it was rushed. And it looks, I labeled it 12:19. It ain't 12:19. So then I got scared. I'm like, oh my God, did all the information that I just put together that come from? It's not. We're good. We're safe. It is December the 29th. It's the 363rd day of the year. There are 2 days. There you go. That's so sad. 2 days. Is this our last stream of the year? Well, maybe unless something big happens. Like if there's a big, huge news story, then I'll jump in, and stream. But yeah, this might be. Should we do maybe a New Year's? I'm going to be with my kid. You know what? I need something to do with my kid that doesn't cost any money because Papa's broke. He still hasn't received his big bag of cash for Christmas, which is what he gets. So I don't really want to, I don't want to go. I don't want to spend a lot of money. You know what I mean? Ugh. Come on. It's a bad season, man. It's like we've spent a lot of money on stuff. Money talk. I hate it. It's so gauche. So maybe we'll do a stream. Maybe my kid and I will do some kind of a New Year's stream. That might be fun. I've never done anything like that with him before. Who knows? We'll see. We've got a weekend to try and figure out how to have fun. Erstwhile on This Day. That's what we're doing. All right, let's get into that. I'm sorry. I'm distracted. Can you tell that my mind is racing? Take a breath. Have a sip of something to drink. And then we're going to get into it. All right, let's get into it right now. Erstwhile on This Day. Erstwhile on This Day in 1913. Oh, this is interesting. Well, to me, but then again, I'm a dork. All right, I got a bad glare on my computer. On this day in 1913, erstwhile, if you will, Cecil B. DeMille starts filming Hollywood's first feature film, The Squaw Man. Didn't know that was the first feature. I thought the first feature film was that Ku Klux Klan movie. Well, I thought that was right. Song of the I don't know. I've never heard of this. The Squaw Man. Cecil B. DeMille, I think he's one of these guys. He's like considered an absolute genius in film. Why? Because he was first. Because he was the first guy to buy a camera and go, look what it does. And they went, you're a genius. I think it was really just the idea of being able to capture something on film that was more impressive. I don't know. I've never seen a Cecil B. DeMille film. At least I don't think I have. Have I? 10 Commandments? Is that Cecil B. DeMille? All right, because that took some directing. There you go. Moving on. Erstwhile on this day in 1937, the Irish Free State was replaced. That's right. On this day, the Irish Free State is replaced by, ladies and gentlemen, can I introduce to you Ireland? That's right, Ireland. The country of, you take it for granted. You think Ireland's, but they've been called a whole bunch of different things. But yes, the Ireland that we know today, and do not, you want to make an Irishman angry? Call it Southern Ireland. Oh my God. So what part of Ireland are you from? You from Northern Ireland or Southern Ireland? Oh, you want to piss an Irishman off. First of all, there's no such thing as Southern Ireland. Well, there is. It's Kerry and Cork and all that. But no, there are two countries. There's the country of Ireland. Country of Ireland, established on this day in 1937. It's the country of Ireland. That's if you're Irish, you come from Ireland. Then there's this other like attached hostage state called Northern Ireland, which is the little part of the island that England went, we'll give you like 90% of the country, but we're going to keep Belfast or whatever. So, yeah. So it was on this day anyway. Ireland, when you go to, if somebody tells you they're going to Ireland, don't say, what part? Well, no, actually, you could say what part because you could mean the different counties. But don't be like, oh, northern or southern. Oh, God, that is so insulting. All right, moving on. On this day, erstwhile on this day in 1998, the leaders of the Khmer Rouge apologized for the Cambodian genocide that claimed over 1 million lives. It was on this day. You know about the Khmer Rouge. You've seen these stories. I mean, if you dipped a toe in the world of the Vietnam experience, you'll know about, the covert CIA war that spilled over into Cambodia and the role that the Khmer Rouge played in that. Brutal. Man, Khmer Rouge is up there with Khmer Rouge is up there with Stalin. Khmer Rouge is up there with Hitler. I mean, my God. But don't worry, guys, because on this day in 1998, about 20 years later, they apologized. Hey, you know how we committed genocide, killed millions of people without even thinking twice about it? Sorry. Okay, I guess we accepted that. There you go. First of all, why were there still any leaders of the Khmer Rouge breathing oxygen in 1998? One would assume that would have not been a good thing to have on your resume, and you might have been hunted down and killed long before 1998. But here we are. Erstwhile on this day in 2013, 7-time Formula One champion and my favorite Formula One driver of all time, bless his name, Michael Schumacher, suffers a massive head injury while skiing in the French Alps. 2013? My God, this doesn't seem like it was that long ago. 2013, 10 years, 11 years now. Michael Schumacher, for those of you who don't know, he's, all right, how would I describe the difference? Because, what makes him a good driver? Well, first of all, he's German. So, I'm going to be racist here, I guess. I don't know. He's German, so he's very technical. He's very serious. As a driver, he sees angles and lanes, and he just processes because of his... Look, I don't know. This is what they openly say about him. Well, he's got that German tenacity. He really dials in like a fun German automobile. Okay, so I guess that's not a terrible thing if you're German to be associated with, being really competent and really, really technical at what you do. But he was also fearless. That was he attributes a lot of the fearlessness to him being so technical. Like, he can see how this can work just barely. He can see how he can fit through there just barely, so that everybody else watching is going, "Oh my God, is he reckless?" But he's like, "No, I actually did math in my head as it was happening at 200 miles an hour." And I love Michael Schumacher. He was great. He's still alive. He's in bad. Well, I don't know if he's in bad shape or not, but this head injury definitely changed him. Now we get to see his son, Mick. Mick Schumacher is out there racing in Formula One, and I root for him. And sometimes they show Dad, and Dad, he's been through some stuff, but there you have it. All right. On this day in 2013, Michael Schumacher suffers a massive head injury, ironically, while skiing. That's right. One of the greatest Formula One drivers of all time. The most dangerous athletic competition in the world, racing Formula One. Suffers a serious head injury skiing in his downtime. All right, let's do some birthdays. This is where we talk about people born on this day. Quarter 2 of the show. Let's get it started. On this day, born 1918. Sorry, wrong. Don't know where that came from. Born on this day in 1800. Charles Goodyear, American chemist, engineer. What did he do? Vulcanized rubber. That's right. He created vulcanized rubber, thus Goodyear, thus tires. He's a baller. He's a good one. Born on this day in 1808. Not a good one. I would describe him as a spare president. You know, sometimes I say every day there's a president's birthday, we're going to have to announce, you know, I mean, not really. There's not 365 presidents, but you know what I mean? It's common for there to be a birthday for a president. This president could be spare if he wasn't widely regarded as the worst president in the history of these here United States. That is, of course, a happy birthday to where I want to make sure I get 1808 Andrew Johnson. And Andrew Johnson, I don't know enough about Andrew Johnson. I just know that whenever his name comes up, you know, he was the worst president ever. I'm like, oh, okay. Tell me why. Born on this day in 1934, happy birthday to American actor Ed Flanders. Not Ned Flanders, Ed Flanders. Who is Ed Flanders? Great character actor from the 60s, but I only mention him because this is, this is a new one for me. Huh? This is one for me, not for you. I talk about my love of the 80s medical drama, St. Elsewhere, all the time. Yesterday on Denzel Washington's birthday, I was like, you know, he started on St. Elsewhere. The star, the main character that everything seemed to be built around was Ed Flanders. He played Dr. Westfall, who was sort of the lead doctor, and all these young doctors were learning from him. That was Dr. Westfall and Dr. Auslander. But Dr. Westfall, Ed Flanders, born on this day in 1934, was the cool one. Now, this is who he is. Have any of you heard of the Tommy Westfall paradox? Tommy Westfall was the son of Dr. Westfall in the show St. Elsewhere. We're celebrating Ed Flanders' birthday. Ed Flanders played Dr. Westfall. So in the show St. Elsewhere, his son Tommy had autism. And the show was on the air for about 7 years, 8 years, whatever. It was a very successful show. It was teamed with Hill Street Blues. So it was two really quality shows that I would actually consider to be peak TV type content that were just somehow randomly dropped on NBC in the middle of the 80s. Hill Street Blues and St. Elsewhere were the beginning of peak TV. Good quality television that was more interested in telling great stories and being... Anyway, I don't want to get off on that. But this is a stream of consciousness rant, so, you know, put up with it. Tommy Westfall was the son of Dr. Westfall in St. Elsewhere. He had autism. It was, for me, in the 80s, the first time I ever heard of autism. Like when I saw Rain Man, like years later, I'm like, well, that's a different kind of autism, but I know about autism because of Tommy Westfall from St. Elsewhere. St. Elsewhere was on for years and years, and the very final scene, in the final episode of St. Elsewhere, shows Dr. Westfall, Ed Flanders, our birthday guy, coming home from work. And he's dressed a little bit differently than how we've come accustomed to him over the course of the series. As a matter of fact, he looks like a working man. He walks into this apartment. He opens the door. It's a crappy apartment. We're like, this is one of Boston's best surgeons. He's not living in a crappy apartment. So anyway, spoiler alert. But 40 years ago, it's not a spoiler alert. The camera pulls back and reveals Tommy Westfall, the little autistic boy, staring at a snow globe. And the snow globe, inside the snow globe, is the hospital, St. Eligius, which the series was called St. Elsewhere. And the idea is that everything that you just watched for the previous 7 seasons never happened. It was all just the imagination of this autistic boy's mind staring at a snow globe. Let me tell you something, folks. I was about 12 years old when I saw this. Oh my God, was that a mind blower? Anyway, the Tommy Westfall paradox is now used to basically everything that's ever been done in television is connected to St. Elsewhere now because of the Tommy Westfall paradox. I don't have time to go into it. It's a podcast all to itself. In fact, there are numerous podcasts that deal with it. Just Google it and have your mind blown by how just about how is Curb Your Enthusiasm attached to St. Elsewhere, an NBC show well, you'll see. Very much like 6 Degrees of Separation, except it's not. It's really wild. All right, so happy birthday to Ed Flanders. I love him. You guys don't know who he is, but there he is. Born on this day in 1934. Born on this day in 1936. How about, I've read about this woman. I've heard good things. First and foremost, she can turn the world on with her smile. Happy birthday, Mary Tyler Moore. Less talked about is her ability to take a nothing day and suddenly make it all seem worthwhile. Thank you. Happy birthday, Mary Tyler Moore. She was She's an all-time bagger of a babe, I'll tell you. Born on this day in 1930. By the way, I say bagger instead of banger because it's a long story, but it's so funny and it makes me laugh, and I'm just going to do it. 1936, born on this day, Ray Nitschke. Ray Nitschke. Chicago Bear, blood in my bones. Boils over, as I discuss Ray Nitschke. But we are going to wish him a happy birthday. Ray Nitschke, one of the legendary linebackers in NFL history, arguably one of the greats. Green Bay Packers linebacker. My God, Nitschke and Butkus, man. These two dudes, they were just bloody in noses back there in the 1960s and 50s. Happy birthday to Ray Nitschke, born on this day in 1936. Born on this day in 1937, Wayne Huizenga. Look at me pronouncing his name right, because that's not an easy name to pronounce. It's weird. It's got letters that don't seem like they typically go together, but they do. Wayne Huizenga says here that he founded Auto Nation, which is fine, but didn't he also found Waste Man or run Waste Management? Wasn't that his thing? Didn't he come? Isn't Wayne Huizenga the guy who became a billionaire because he collected all of our garbage? Like he had all the garbage routes in America. And then Blockbuster too. I think that Wayne Huizenga was like one of the founders of Blockbuster. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was involved with that. Anyway, Wayne Huizenga, born on this day in 1937. He died in 2018. Born on this day in 1938, John Voight, American actor and producer, estranged father from Angelina Jolie. I don't know what this. First of all, John Voight's always been kind of a weird guy. Like he's always been kind of edgy, and people didn't know how to take him. Fantastic actor, man. So talented, this guy. His daughter's Angelina Jolie. I can't imagine he was a great father. How do you, and you know what? I guess I don't really know enough about it. Maybe they've come back together. Maybe they haven't. But when Angelina Jolie first broke and became a big star, John Voight was still semi-relevant. He was like considered, hey, the guy from Midnight Cowboy. The Deer Hunter. He's a well-regarded actor. But she became a big star, and it was like she started immediately talking crap on her, and he started talking crap on her. And I'm like, you don't do that publicly. And then she starts making out with her brother at the Oscars. Remember that? And then John Voight was like, yeah, they're weird. And I'm like, dude, you're their father. That's not. I don't know. John Voight, happy. You know what my favorite John Voight role is? You guys ever watch Ray Donovan on Showtime? Of course you don't. Of course you don't. I gave a list of 10 of my favorite shows today on the Freak Morning Show. I said, these are the 10 best shows of 2023. I had a roundtable of no less than 8 people, and I gave a list of the 10 best shows, and hardly anybody had heard of any of these shows. Ugh. So yeah, I don't expect you to know what Ray Donovan is. Ray Donovan was a show that aired on Showtime. John Voight played Mickey Donovan. Oh man, was he awesome. My favorite character in that show was obviously Mickey Donovan. Incorrigible, just the biggest dirtbag deadbeat father you've ever met. He's like 80, but he's been a deadbeat father his whole life, and he's trying to reconnect with his successful kids, and he's a con man. Oh, he was so good. Happy birthday, John Voight, born on this day in 1938. Born on this day in 1943. Here's another one of them dudes. Tell you about them dudes from time to time. Who was the them dude that we talked about yesterday? There was somebody. Well, I know most recently, I know that we've done Curtis Mayfield. I know that anyway, here's another one of them dudes. Okay. Rick Danko. Rick Danko was born on this day in 1943. The name might not mean much to you, but he is a cool character, and he's got a really interesting story. We won't go into it here, but Rick Danko is most famous for being the bass player and founding member of the band. Levon Helm, Robbie Robertson, Rick Danko. Who am I missing? Probably like 10 other guys. The band started out as the Jayhawks. I think that's what their original name was. Something like that. The Screaming Hawks, something like that. I don't know. But a young Bob Dylan needed a band. So Bob Dylan hired this band, this really competent band, to, just sort of be his backup band. And they were a real band. Like I said, I think they were called the Jayhawks or something like that. But then they became so successful as his backup band that they just changed their name to The Band. And when Bob Dylan wasn't using them to record or tour, they just put out their own stuff. And oh my God, what an amazing discography. What an incredible assortment of talent. Levon Helm, Robbie Robertson, and Rick Danko. All 3 of these guys I mean, here's the other thing too. Okay, so one of their biggest songs is "The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down." The song about the Southerners' lament at the fall of Atlanta and the Civil War. They're all Canadian, man. I think. Well, Levon's not. Levon's a Southerner, but like the guy who wrote that, they're Canadians. They're a Canadian band. Anyway, moving on. Happy birthday to Rick Danko. He's a cool guy, and he's long dead. That's unfortunate. He died in 1999. Born on this day in 1946, Marian Faithfull. I don't know anything about her. I know that she was famous in the 60s. I think she might have been a singer, possibly a model or actress. I do know this. She seems to have had sex with all the Rolling Stones. Moving on. Born on this day in 1947. How about this guy? This guy, I have, the more time passes, the more I admire this guy. I love him. Guys, it's Ted Danson's birthday. Ted Danson! A+ dude. Now, Ted Danson first came to our attention in Cheers. I loved Cheers, but Sam Malone was very funny, but he wasn't the standout character. I mean, I think I maybe loved Woody or Coach or even Norm or whatever. Frasier was fun when they came. But, Ted Danson with Sam Malone was kind of the glue. He was kind of the central character. Not supposed to be the funny, wacky one, but whatever. I recognize the greatness of Cheers, and he's Ted Danson, so, good for you. Then he starts doing some movies, and of course, they're capitalizing on his success with Cheers. He's doing the Two Men and a Little Lady and all that, and those were stupid movies, but, semi-entertaining. So I'm like, okay, very good for him. Then he's like, hey, I got to do something. It's 1993, and he does a show called Becker, right? And Becker becomes a hit, and I've watched a couple episodes of Becker. I didn't really get it. Maybe it's good. I don't know, but I was bored. It didn't interest me. And I'm like, never mind. So up until that point, Ted Danson in my mind had just been a guy who deserves our respect and our regard because of Sam Malone and his place in television history. And then he's been able to, crank out some other things, nothing really great, all that. Then this dude hits the year 2000 and Ted Danson becomes like my can't miss guy. Everything that Ted Danson has done since 2000 is something that you need to see, whether it's an entire season arc on a failed FX Glenn Close show called Damages, where Glenn Close played a lawyer for like 3 seasons. Excellent show. One of my Rose Byrne, the actress Rose Byrne came from that. Ted Danson played a bad guy, like a bad hedge fund that they spent all season chasing. Then what does he do? Then he's all over Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like it's like, oh my God, Ted Danson's now a Curb guy. Fantastic. The Good Place. And then the best, well, I always say The Good Place and Community are the 2 best situation comedies from network television in the last 10 to 15 years. And by the way, I do parse that specifically because there are situation comedies that I think are every bit as good and possibly better that are not network comedies. So Community and The Good Place. Danson was so great in The Good Place. How about Ted Danson? Is he still with Mary Steenburgen or did they break up? Because let me tell you, based upon their relationship in Curb Your Enthusiasm, they will always be a top 5 celebrity couple for me. Mm-hmm. I have my weird list of my favorite celebrity couples because I'm a complete serial killer inside. I have these weird lists. Kristen Bell and Dak Shepard, also from The Good Place, are in the first place for my favorite Hollywood celebrity couples. I also really, really like, as I always say, Ashton Kutcher and Minka Minaj. What is her name? I don't know her name. She's cool. All right, moving on. What's her name? Mina Mookers? Mina Munka? Nicki Manuka? Not Nicki Minaj. I know it's not Nicki Minaj, and I know it's not Minka Kelly. It's the girl from that 70s show with the Manuska Russian name. We're going to move on. I don't care. It's not that important. Born on this day in 1947, the greatness of Ted Danson. Thank you. Born on this day in 1957, the late great Brad Gray. Who's Brad Gray? Brad Gray is responsible, along with his partner Bernie Brillstein, for almost, I'd say, about good 50% of the funny things of the last 50 years. Brillstein Gray Productions, Bernie Brillstein and Brad Gray. Brad Gray is our birthday boy. Everything. Just Google him. everything. Everybody was on Saturday Night Live. Everybody, all the movies, Adam Sandler movies, Will Ferrell, whatever. Gary Shandling, Seinfeld, Brillstein Gray. Brad Gray, born on this day in 1957, died in 2017, sadly of cancer. Born on this day in 1959. The only, well, actually, I shouldn't say only, but someone who oddly benefited from the events of September 11th, 2001. I mean, I remember like September 12th or 13th thinking to myself, well, this person must have prayed really hard because they have been swept off the front pages, and now it's just all about 9/11, and we never went back to find out what was going on with our birthday girl, Paula Poundstone. Yeah. Do you guys remember? You guys know that the newspaper headlines and all of that stuff, the big story that everybody was talking about on the morning of September 11th, 2001 was comedian Paula Poundstone and how the state of California had come in and taken her kids away from her, and her kids were accusing her of everything from sexual abuse to beatings and all of this. We were all talking about Paula Poundstone for about, 2 or 3 days before September 11th. And then that happened, and we all went, you know what? Maybe gossip is bullshit. Maybe talking shit and mocking celebrities simply because there's nothing else to talk about isn't the best way to go, and that there are more important things. Well, we learned that. The domestic issues concerning Paula Poundstone, her live-in partner, and their adopted children really are not as important as the events of September 11th. But yeah, she did in a very weird way. She was nobody talked about her anymore after that. We had moved on. Born on this day in 1959, Paula Poundstone. I don't even know how that fixed itself. Those kids now are got to be in their 30s, Born on this day in 1963, happy birthday to Sean Payton, football player. He hates Russell Wilson. I don't know if you know this. See that video of them on the sideline just screaming at each other? Let me tell you something. I think Sean Payton's a D-bag. I really do. I think he's like the most overrated coach in football, and I don't understand why it is that what has he done? Okay, he had one good year with the Saints. He had Drew Brees, though. He had some talent on that team. I just don't think... We'll see. I just think he's so overrated. I think he's a good coach. Like, it's not like, oh, he sucks. That's not what I'm saying. People talk about Andy Reid or Sean Payton like he's Andy Reid, or they talk about him like he's Bill Belichick. Or not actually, maybe not to that level, but you know what I mean. He seems to get a lot of love, and I don't know why, because he really appears to be quite the a-hole. He really does. He seems like a jerk off, and yet the buzz on him is always really good. I don't know. We don't talk about enough? Who's far more accomplished and I think a much better football coach? And again, this is just incremental because Sean Payton's a good football coach. I just don't think he's as great as everybody says he is. Pete Carroll. I don't think Pete Carroll gets as much love. I think Pete Carroll made one bad call in a Super Bowl and everybody went, he can't coach. Pete Carroll can coach. I was reminded of that because of the whole situation with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, of course, coached by Pete Carroll for a number of years. His best years were with Pete Carroll. He's now in Denver. Sean Payton comes in, tries to fix the Denver Broncos by trying to fix Russell Wilson. They had a blow up over the weekend, and now Russell Wilson's been benched. Moving on. Happy birthday, Sean Payton. Born on this day in 1965, lead singer of the smartest rock band Dexter Holland, celebrating a birthday today. You got to keep them separated. The Offspring. Did you know that? Did you know that the Offspring, like everybody in the Offspring, has a PhD and a master's and some doctors in there? They're like super smart dudes who also formed a band. They met at some super smart college and were like, hey, you like punk? I like punk. You want to write stupid songs? Sure. And then they became famous. Dexter Holland, American music. I love this. This is what his description is. This is how accomplished he is outside of music. Dexter Holland, American musician, singer, songwriter, and biologist. He's the guy who sang, is that Pretty Fly for a White Guy? That's them, right? He's the guy who sang Pretty Fly for a White Guy. He's also a very highly regarded molecular biologist, but we'll move on. Born on this day in 1972, Jude Law. Jude Law, English actor. I think I like Jude Law. Oh my God. He is so indistinguishable from Jude. What's the difference between a Jude Law and a Paul Bettany? And then when you want to mix in some Christian Bale, I mean, look, Christian Bale did the smartest thing ever, becoming Batman, becoming the Dark Knight. Because once Christian Bale became the Dark Knight, he was no longer going to be confused with the likes of Jude Law and Paul Bettany. Is Jude Law in the Marvel films, or is that Paul Bettany? Same guy, if you ask me. Yeah. We create English clones too. Don't just think the Hollywood clone factory is just for American clones. We also make British clones. Born on this day in 1973, happy birthday to one of the best minds in baseball. And let me tell you, this is not easy for me to say because he's an icon with a team I hate. It's Theo Epstein's birthday. Can we get a vote? Can we get a vote for Theo Epstein as the new commissioner of Major League Baseball? Nobody deserves it more. The dude was made general manager of the Boston Red Sox. He's like 15. He's like 15 years old, and they're like, "Hey, you want to run the Red Sox?" And he's like, "Sure." And he wins the World Series. And now, remember there was the great Boston curse, the drought, the curse of the Bambino. They had one. Theo Epstein comes in there. He was young. He was in his 30s. Theo Epstein comes in there, and within like a season or two, he puts a team together. They win a World Series. The Boston Red Sox really haven't sucked since. They've been competitive and decent. That was great. So what does he do for a follow-up? Well, the Chicago Cubs come calling. And the Chicago Cubs are like, "Hey, Theo, we saw what you did over there with Boston and their Curse of the Bambino thing. We got a thing in Chicago called the Curse of the Billy Goat. We ain't won nothing in like 105 years. Longest streak of futility in professional sports. Want to come?" And he came. And within like 3 years, he gave the Cubs their first World Series. He then quit baseball. I think he's working in some kind of advisory capacity. He's like, I don't know, probably only 45 now. He's young. He's ridiculously young, and he will forever be lionized in Boston for what he did with the Red Sox and Chicago for what he did with the Cubs. He needs to be the commissioner of Major League Baseball. He just knows what he's doing. He's a terrific baseball executive. Born on this day in 1973, the great Theo Epstein. Born on this day in 1976, how about Danny McBride? How great is this guy? God, I love Danny McBride. What are we talking? You want to talk Eastbound and Down? Okay, I'll go even deeper. How about Foot Fist Way? You ever seen Foot Fist Way? God, that's funny. And it's the birth of that character. The not Ricky Bobby. The character from Eastbound and Down that he does. I can't think of it right now, but that's the origin of that character seems to come from the film Foot Fist Way. If you've never seen Foot Fist Way, it's Danny McBride. It's his first movie. Him and Jody Hill, him and his partner, his creative partner, Jody Hill. They created this movie when they were both like, youngsters who nobody knew. But they've gone on to do everything from Eastbound and Down to Vice Principals to, I think they're involved in The Righteous Gemstones. Not sure. Almost positive, though. Anyway, they're an incredibly prolific and wonderfully talented comedy team, writing team, creating team, producing team. And they first got together on Foot Fist Way. And Foot Fist Way is the story. Danny McBride plays a dude who runs a karate dojo in a strip mall in like South Carolina. And he's very full of himself. And he just thinks that he's the Bruce Lee of, and it turns out that he's really just teaching little children how to do karate. And he's not a good teacher. I mean, it's not just that he's not good at teaching them karate. He's not good at teaching them life. He's a terrible, terrible influence. Foot Fist Way. Happy birthday to you, Danny McBride. You're really funny. I will say this about Danny McBride, and it is something that I do appreciate to some degree about The Righteous Gemstones. Danny McBride is so wonderful at playing that character, that obnoxious, arrogant, so funny because it's just like this superiority with absolutely nothing to back it up with. That's the character that he's created, and it's very funny. Why is that dude so confident? You know what I mean? It's like, why does he have such confidence? There's no reason for this Danny McBride character to have confidence. I worried that Is that all? Is that all there is to him? Because he did that in Foot Fist Way. He did that in Eastbound and Down. He did that in Vice Principals. But now we're seeing him in Righteous Gemstones, and he's actually acting. There are still a lot of elements of that character. But hey, I wish him luck. I love Danny McBride. I hope he can grow as a comedic actor. I'm not expecting any kind of Peter Sellers like growth and diversity of range. Just give me a little something other than that guy. How about Born on This Day in 1982? Top three for me. Top 3 crushes. Current and within the last 3 years. I'm not going to give you the other 2. I mean, we all know Scarlett Johansson is one of them, but I'm not going to give you the last one. I will give you this one, though. Oh, man, I have such a crush on Allison Brie. Happy birthday, Allison Brie. Born on this day in 1982. We were just talking about Community. Allison Brie, famous for playing Adderall Annie on Community. She is such a funny actress. She's also in Glow, right? Isn't that the show that she's on? The wrestling show where she's the female wrestler. She's like the star of that. I know that show gets really good reviews. I only made it through 2 episodes before I went, I really don't care about female wrestling in the 80s. And that's what happened, and I stopped watching it. But I think she's tremendous, Allison Brie. Do you know how she met her husband? Oh, God. Okay, so first of all, I don't think I'm, going out of line when I say she's gorgeous. I mean, she is just so beautiful. She's such a beautiful, perfect-looking girl without being like porn star hot. Ooh, daddy. You know what I mean? She's like she is a gorgeous, normal-looking girl. She is an Akron 10, to be sure. She's an Akron 11, which, because of the way she carries herself, I think she also turns into a Hollywood 10, but whatever. Here's how she met her husband. She's married to Dave Franco. James Franco, his like little half-wit brother. She married him. They were down in New Orleans for Mardi Gras. She was down there with a bunch of girlfriends doing a girls' weekend, just getting crazy. That's what she was doing. And he was down there filming something. And through mutual friends, they're like, oh, let's all go to dinner. So they went to dinner. And there's one of those dinners where it's like 20 people at a table. And they all kind of know each other from this person and whatever. So she was looking at Dave Franco and she's like, oh my God, he's so hot. And this was supposed to be a weekend where she was just going to get crazy and she wasn't going to worry about it. She was stressing over the fate of Community, the show that she was on. There were all these rumors it was going to be canceled. So the idea was she was going to go out on this girls' weekend and just get nuts and not worry about anything and then come back to LA and deal with her career then. So she sees Dave Franco and she decides at some point in the dinner that she's going to have sex with Dave Franco tonight. She doesn't really know him. Like she knows him through people. So she finds him later at the night after the dinner. They're at the bar and she walks up to him and she takes a tab of ecstasy and she drops it in his drink. And she goes, I just dropped ecstasy in your drink. I just took one. Are you going to finish that drink? And he just looked at it and he chugged the drink. They got married like a year later. That's how they met. That is not a meet cute. That's a meet weird. But even if they didn't, I think it's just so hot that Allison Brie is so freaking sexually liberated that she's like, you know what? I just want to go have sex. And me and this guy, we're going to go have sex. Love that. She's such a cool chick. Smart, evolved, and adorable. Happy birthday, Allison Brie. Born on this day in 1995. How about Myles Garrett? Scary man out of Cleveland. Defensive edge. He's a bad man. Myles Garrett, I don't think a lot of people, I mean, everybody acknowledges that he's terrific, but I don't think he gets like the kind of love from the average fan, the way that like an Aaron Donald does, or even a Micah Parsons at this point. These guys are all mentioned. I think we forget about Myles Garrett. Maybe it's because he plays in Cleveland. Maybe it's because he was injured. Well, not this year though, right? Hasn't he been pretty healthy this year? I don't know. You know what? I shouldn't mention that because I haven't. All I know is that Myles Garrett is the birthday boy, and that was a lot of birthdays. We had a lot of birthdays today. We took a lot of time in the birthday segment, but don't worry because the deaths, we only got a couple. Here we go. Let's decide who goes to heaven and who goes to hell. Let's do the deads. Dead on this day in 2020, Pierre Cardin. Fashion designer. Don't know anything about him. Pretty sure he deserves to be in hell. Dead on this day in 2020, Joe Louis Clark. So you know who this guy is? This is the guy, did Morgan Freeman play him in that movie from the 80s where he was a principal who used a bat and abused kids, and we all went, that's how it should be. Yeah, that guy can go to hell. Joe Louis Clark. How about this one? Dead on this day in 2022, preemptively put him in heaven. Pele died on this day in 2022. The GOAT of soccer. I mean, I don't even know if that's true. I don't know enough about soccer, but I know that, when I was a kid, I didn't know anything about soccer. The only thing I knew was Pele. Pele died on this day in 2022. We're going to put him in heaven. Okay, that's it. We're done. That's good. We've run through it. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter. This stream of consciousness is rolling around. We can't be stopped. All right, what do you say we get into now the big topics of the day? I will remind you the show runs on your gratuities. If you are so inclined to support this kind of talk radio, the kind that doesn't seek to divide, but instead needle, irritate, but ultimately bring together, you can drop a little something in the Venmo or the Cash App. All right, the big stories today. Let's get it started. I got to wrap this up here within the next half hour or so. So we're not going to go the full 2 again today. I apologize, but I got to clean the house. I got to take a shower. I got to shave, and then I got to pick up my kid all before 3 o'clock. I got to get him at 3 o'clock. So at 1:30, I'm thinking, okay, jump in the shower, clean up really quick. So please bear with me. So let's run through these. Israel is trending as it always does. The people in Israel are extremely angry at Benjamin Netanyahu. It's being pointed out that 1 year after him being let back into office, oh boy, things are not good. Also, many more concerns about the Israelis instigating a war on the northern border and preemptively going into Lebanon. That's something the world is watching. That could be a problem. But the reason that the Israelis are saying is they're planning a major attack. We have the best spies, especially in this region, ever. And they're all telling us that they are loading up for a major assault on Israel. That's what the Israelis are saying. So, their generals and stuff are like, you know what? I know that the world might be really angry at us, but let's preemptively go in and carpet bomb Beirut or wherever it is. So we're worried about that. We're watching out for it. Again, the story of Israel, if it's something that you're absolutely important or is absolutely of great importance to you, why are you coming to me for it? You can find it elsewhere. I'm just telling you what people are talking about. Here's a big one. Here's another one. We don't delve into this nonsense, but it is a very big story. It is a top story that I can tell going around today, and that is that Maine has become the second state to ban former President Trump from the ballot this upcoming election. The first, of course, was Colorado. Colorado was enacted by the Colorado Supreme Court. Okay. Now, and it's important because I'm making a distinction here. Colorado's banning of Trump off the ballot was a decision made by the Supreme Court. The word supreme is pretty important here. The Supreme Court of the state of Colorado. That's not the case in Maine. That's why this Maine one seems incredibly problematic. Look, I got a problem. I said from the very beginning, I've got a problem with what Colorado did as well. I understand the thinking behind it. I mean, I get it. You can make that case, but I don't think that you should be taken off a ballot. I think that as long as we allow people to write in the names of people, if it's somebody who's obviously running and they've declared and we know him, he's a known commodity, he should be on the ballot. I don't think you can say he hasn't been convicted of anything yet. I think maybe that metric changes if he's convicted, but I don't know. And look, guys, you know me. I'm not political. I'm not a Trump guy. I'm not a Biden guy. I don't really care about any of that nonsense. But I'm just saying what I think seems fair. But Trump in Maine was removed from the ballot by the Democratic Secretary of State. And it's a problem because this is obviously partisan. If in Maine, the Supreme Court of Maine had made this decision, that's a different thing. The Supreme Court in every state is the highest law in the land. They have the last word. Well, unless, of course, the United States Supreme Court wants to get involved, but they rarely do. United States Supreme Court rarely accepts challenges to state Supreme Courts. It's just not something that's done. So if Maine Supreme Court had made this ruling, it would be different. This one, a partisan A Democrat from the other party made the decision not to allow Republicans to support Donald Trump in the state of Maine. Oh my God, that is absolutely going to be challenged. And that one's going to be fast-tracked to the United States Supreme Court. I promise you that. Let's see here. What else do we have? In Ohio, governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine. He's always been a little bit of a maverick when it comes to the party line of GOP politics, especially that of the Ohio variety, which is a very unique type of party politics. Mike DeWine is a conservative. He's an intellectual conservative. That's, you might call him a stupid nerd or whatever, but Mike DeWine has gone against his party. It's the trans thing, trans care for trans kids. So, a lot of GOP state houses where they have control, they're passing these bills that make it illegal to treat minors for trans stuff. That's all you need to know. If you have to find out the absolute details of this story, well, I just sent you in the right direction. There you go. Oh crap. Hold on. You know what, guys? We're going to have to take a break. Hold on. I'll be right back, guys. I apologize. This is important. All right. We're back. Jeez Louise. Gonna have to wrap this up. All right. So let's run through these as quickly as we can. Ohio governor, we talked about that. Mike DeWine, he vetoed a bill that would deny care for trans kids in the state of Ohio. It also is a bill that has something to do with trans athletes. Again, if that's your bag, go find it elsewhere. Plenty of people are willing to talk about that for hours and hours at a time. Space plane. This is exciting. So a Falcon Heavy rocket, I almost called it Tesla, a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket blasted off from Cape Canaveral, Cape Kennedy. What are we calling it now? I don't know. Secret mission. Here's the deal. It's a SpaceX rocket supporting a United States military mission. And they ain't telling us much about it, but you may have just put a cannon in space. Went off without a hitch this morning, I guess. I don't know. I didn't pay attention. I'm just reading. I'm just taking the stories. Again, well, actually, I shouldn't say this because this is one of those stories that typically I know all about because I'm a space nerd. Oh, God. So this is the story that I said in the beginning of the show that I wanted to talk about and that I wanted Adam to just kind of take a breath before he goes all, judgmental jockey on the camera or on the keyboard. Because, some people, he included, myself included, have a habit of doing that. God, I'm sorry. But I don't want to get into this story to that degree now because we're totally up against it time-wise. But there was a murder in Dover, Massachusetts. A couple, their teen daughter, they've all been found dead in apparent domestic violence incident. I'll read you the story. It says here a gun was found. Well, here, we'll start it right here. A couple and their teenage daughter were found dead at a home in Dover, Massachusetts Thursday night in what authorities believe is a case of domestic violence. The slain family members were identified as Tina Kamal, 54, Ariana Kamal, an 18-year-old Middlebury College student, and Rakesh Kamal, 57. So it's mom, Tina, dad, Rakesh, and 18-year-old college student daughter, 18. All of them were found. Apparently, they think it's a murder-suicide. There are some other details in here that I wanted to delve into, but without giving it the time that it deserves to be discussed responsibly, we're going to move on. I do apologize. Sorry, Adam. I was afraid that was there were some moving parts in that story that I wanted to get into that we will not get into now. Let's see here. We got a college chancellor in Wisconsin. This guy, he is the let's see what his official title is. Important dude at Wisconsin. Is it Wisconsin Whitewater? Let me see. Because I know it's not University of Wisconsin-Madison. Give me a second. In 2007, here's what it says. I guess it's University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. In 2007, when there's something going, guys. I got to end the show. I am so sorry. There is something important going on that concerns some other things. I'm sorry. We're gonna wrap the show. A University of Wisconsin-Whitewater professor. He and his wife, he's not a professor, he's the chancellor of the school. He and his wife were making like porno sex videos on OnlyFans, and the board of regents at the university, they discovered this and they fired him. And he's saying, you shouldn't fire me. That's my freedom of speech. And really, they fired him. They fired him for that. Should they be able to fire him? I guess that's the question. Yes, I'm sorry. He's representing the university and he's out there doing really weird, sexually explicit things. It's not the norm. Society, I don't care how open you are. Yes, we should be accepting of different behaviors and all that. But when you are representing a university as its chancellor and you're trying to make parents of children feel comfortable in sending them to you, this is not the kind of thing that you would want if you were running a college. And I can completely understand why they got rid of him. Now he's waving that whole First Amendment thing. I'm being persecuted for my sexual proclivities. No, you're not. You made a bad choice. Your lifestyle doesn't jive with your actual profession. And, now we're all screwed. Ugh. All right. So there, we'll move on from that one. Let's see. What else do we have? California waves. There are big giant waves crushing California today. Surfers are happy. Homeowners are not. There's flooding. There's all kinds of problems. I don't know what this is due to. Again, weather. Go get weather. Yeah, I can't. Now the last two, I've got two other things here that I was going to do that I can't do now. I'm sorry, guys. I appreciate you hanging out with me today, but I got to cut this short. We got to get out of here. Literally. I got to go somewhere. I've been called to something that I must go tend to. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll be back next week. Probably won't be on the 1st, although maybe, you never know. Definitely Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and all that stuff. Have a great weekend. Happy New Year to all. Thank you to Peter and Frankie, today's executive producers. If you want to help out the show, we'll put that up one more time. You can drop a little something, but why on earth would you support a show that just cuts you short like this? Love y'all. Have a great weekend. Happy New Year. Bye.